You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not just a cliche catchphrase, it is a brutal law of human psychology and wealth building. If your closest 5 friends are constantly living paycheck to paycheck, complaining about their financial situation and spending their weekends blowing money on instant gratification, you are highly likely to do the exact same thing. Financial habits, both good and bad, are highly contagious. We unconsciously mimic the spending, investing, and saving behaviors of our immediate social circle. If your group normalizes lifestyle inflation, expensive dinners they cannot afford, and financing luxury items to look wealthy, your brain begins to register these destructive behaviors as completely normal. It is time to run a ruthless financial audit on your social circle and ask yourself the hard question: is your circle making you broke? To understand how deeply this impacts your reality, look at the case study of a retail manager named Mark. Mark was disciplined, saved 20% of his income, and was actively learning about index funds. However, his core group of 4 friends spent every weekend trying out expensive restaurants, booking trips on credit cards, and constantly upgrading their cars on high-interest loans. Because Mark wanted to stay connected and feared missing out, he slowly began to compromise his boundaries. First, it was joining them for just one expensive dinner. Then, it was financing a vehicle he didn't need just to fit into the parking lot. Within 18 months, Mark's savings were entirely depleted, and he found himself carried away by $3,000 of high-interest consumer debt. He didn't lose his money because he lacked intelligence. He lost his money because his environment wore down his willpower. Environment will always defeat willpower over a long enough timeline. If you want to build true freedom, you must implement hyper-realistic tips to protect your financial machine from the habits of others. The first micro tip is the implementation of transparent financial boundaries. Stop participating in activities that destroy your budget simply to keep the peace. If your circle proposes an expensive night out, aggressively counter with a low-cost or free alternative, like hosting a dinner at home or meeting for a coffee and a walk. If they resist, have the courage to say no with absolute conviction. True friends will respect your financial trajectory. People who pressure you to spend money you shouldn't are not invested in your future. The second tip is to actively audit the conversations within your group. What do the 5 people around you talk about when they meet? If the conversation revolves entirely around gossip, consumer goods, and complaining about the economy, your mind is being fed garbage. You need to actively seek out and introduce new nodes into your social network. Find the individuals who are obsessed with asset accumulation, cash flow, and building high-value skills. You do not need to drastically cut off your old friends overnight, but you must strictly limit their access to your peak energy hours. Step into rooms where you are the poorest person in the circle, because that discomfort is exactly where your financial expansion lives. When your circle normalizes investing, buying assets, and keeping expenses low, wealth building stops being an exhausting struggle and becomes the natural baseline of your life. The third tip is to gamify your financial growth with accountability partners. Find at least one person who shares your hunger for freedom and set up a weekly or monthly check-in. Review your savings rates, track your investment goals, and celebrate milestones of discipline rather than milestones of spending. When you surround yourself with executors who hold you to a higher standard, your momentum multiplies. Look at your inner circle right now with radical honesty. Are they pulling you up toward leverage and freedom, or are they acting as an anchor keeping you tied to the cycle of survival? Your time and your capital are finite assets. Every dollar spent trying to impress people who are also broke is a dollar stolen from your ultimate independence. Choose your circle based on where you are engineered to go, not where you used to be. Fall in love with the machine-like grind and build an environment that guarantees your success. If you found value in today's deep dive and are ready to take absolute ownership of your financial environment, make sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below sharing how you plan to optimize your circle today. Stay disciplined, protect your focus, and keep executing the blueprint for an easy, high-leverage life.